Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of How to Do Drugs. I am your host, Aaliyah Janine, and today I have the wonderful Tommy Chong on. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hello, and you got me just right at the time before I do drugs, so we're in good shape.
That's right. I'm here in the city. You're in California, I'm assuming, right? Or Vegas?
No, I'm in California. I'm not.
California.
I'm not afraid of the taxes.
I stopped paying taxes forever ago. You can't tax somebody who technically doesn't make any money, right? That's
No, not at all. In fact, that's the good news. If you got tax problems, that means you're making money somewhere, or you got money, or you had money somewhere.
right. Yeah. Just hide it all. I always make sure I make a very little amount of money on paper. That's the way. Fuck the government. No taxation without representation. Damn it. I'm gonna have to edit that in case the IRS is actually listening. I'm
That's
kidding.
what I was laughing because I'm thinking I can just see some people's ears perk up. Oh,
Oh, is this
you know that the taxation laws are the most effective tool the government's got. You
hmm
know, keeping keeping people well as honest as the government's going to keep them.
yeah.
But that's why Bitcoin has really got everybody kind of little up.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have.
Although they'll find a way because in order to have a Bitcoin, you have to have the password, and that's
Mhm.
what's worth money, and that's what the government will go after. You know.
Yeah. Is that fuck the government? Yeah. Are you into cryptocurrency at all? Like I remember I bought some, especially over quarantine. I had this app called Robinhood. I still have it, and I was like, I'm in the stocks now. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I bought some cryptocurrency. Sometimes it goes up, and a lot of times it's down. It's like my relationships just up and down.
Well, that's it. But you're still here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love it because if it was stocks, yeah, you can do the same thing with stocks, but
hmm
crypto is it's really it's now. People always say it's the future, but the future is now.
hmm
It's just like saying computers are the future.
Right.
you know, or the cell phone's the future.
Yeah.
We've been living in the
The
future
future
forever.
for a while. Yeah. We just need flying cars, and I would be cool with that.
What we're doing is NFTs,
Yeah. Are you into the NFTs?
big time, big
Yeah.
time. And the thing is, it costs nothing.
Mhm.
It's all about fame, you
Mhm.
know, and that's what I have,
Mhm.
and that's what we have. Cheech was kind of hesitant. He was doomsdaying it for a while until he got his first NFT. And I just looked at my account, and it's got over $500,000 in it
Just
for
from the
not
NFTs?
for NFTs, just NFTs. Now I can sell off a portion.
Mhm.
Oh, excuse me.
It's okay. It's okay.
Stop it! Stop it! He does that every week. Stop it! This dog, it's like a ritual. I mean, he's a good alarm,
Yeah.
and,
Oh,
and
yeah. Oh, you
yeah.
jumped. I jumped. So, yeah.
Well, that's what the dogs are all about. They're alarm systems.
Mine's too old. She's literally passed out behind me. She doesn't give a shit anymore.
Where are you calling from?
New York. I live in New York.
Oh, the Manhattan. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep. I'm on the Upper East Side. I like it up
upper
here. Yeah,
Upper
I'm
East
fancy.
Side.
Fancy.
Woo! What's the what 80th?
I'm in the 90s.
Oh, you're in the 90s.
I'm in
Oh,
the
yeah.
90s. Yeah.
Yeah, we lived in New York for a couple of months actually on
Mhm.
Sutton Place.
Okay.
We rented the movie company rented us a house, Cartier watch owned,
Okay.
and it was a house, 3-story, like a scary
Like
old.
brownstone
Yeah,
kind of.
well, kind of wood in the back. It had a yard, tell you,
Oh, nice.
and it's on Sutton Place, but a lot of fun. A lot of
Yeah.
fun. I had my kids there and my wife. The whole family was there.
Mhm.
We were doing a movie. I forget which one. Probably Corsican Brothers, I think. But anyway, we were in New York and living in a house in New York, Upper East Side. It was phenomenal. It was,
It's really nice. Like I do miss living in a house because, like, I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I'm used to having space and
yeah,
lots of land. And
yeah.
like I'm about 5 blocks from Central Park, so like, and I can see it from my window. So like, if I need grass, like I walk over there and then I buy like water. But I do miss living in a house. Like right now, I have some neighbors who think that they live in a house. Uh, I lived here four
Whoop, whoop,
years.
whoop, 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 whoop.
I can still hear you. It's
I
okay.
got it. I got it. It's just somebody phoning. It's probably a crank call telling me about my car warranty is up.
Warranty. I love that. I don't even have a car anymore, and I'll still get those or like
Oh yeah.
insurance. And I'm just like, what? I actually had one for I got like a call for fertility, and I thought that was hilarious because I recently, like last year, I had uterine cancer. So they kind of like cleaned out my box a little bit. And so like, and I actually, for some reason, I actually answered this call and I'm like, wow, I'm like, I can't, like, I kind of made them feel bad, a little bit. I'm like, I just had uterine cancer and I can't have babies now. And this is really rude that you're calling. Like, I don't care. I never wanted kids, but I was just like, you guys need to do your research a little bit better.
oh, those robocalls. So yeah, I used to have fun with them.
I used
Act
to do
like
them a lot. I used to love prank calling people, and now I feel like it's like payback for all the prank calls I did when I was like in high school and stuff. It's like
yeah,
karma. What goes around comes
yeah,
around.
yeah. I used to do a Chinese accent, and because I'd get a lot of Chinese calls because of my name,
Hmm.
Chong, and so I'd do a Chinese. Hello, who you are? Who? I can't hear you. Who you calling? Chong. Oh no, this Chong.
I mean, you gotta have fun with them sometimes, but most of the time, I don't even answer them. They just go straight to voicemail. The ones who make it to voicemail, though, I'm like, look at you with that determination. Just
They keep
yeah,
going, keep
yeah,
going.
like you own student loans, and I'm like, no, I don't. I do not at all.
So you did all the drugs then? Huh?
I have done a lot of them. Yeah, quite a few. I think my favorite, like the first drug I ever did was acid. What was like the first drug you ever did, like when you were younger, you know, way back
Well,
then?
pot. Well,
Pot.
alcohol. Alcohol was the very first. I got to introduce that real early, and
Yeah.
luckily because I hated the taste. When you're young, I never did.
Yeah.
I never got by the taste. I was too busy with the soft drinks. But then I got turned on to marijuana when I was 17,
Okay.
and that was a perfect age because it changed my life. One toke, one toke, and I was hooked, like they said in those drug commercials.
Yeah.
But you couldn't get any. I was in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, so it was like that. The joint and the Lenny Bruce record the guy gave me was the only, that was a one and done thing, and so that joint lasted me about a month because
Yeah.
I'd take a toke and put it out, and it really, because I love your show about how to do drugs. It really taught me habits that I still got today
Hmm.
because I learned, with the first joint that one toke will get you high,
Hmm.
you know, and these people that I don't feel it. I don't feel it. They're the the classic overeaters,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
be, because they're never full enough. They're never
Hmm.
satisfied, and they never will get satisfied.
Yeah.
and that's what you learn about. That's what I learned about drugs. As soon as what I learned is kind of like the smallest amount can be the most effective. It's in the mind, it's in the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, when people always ask me about especially with the cancer people, I got so and so cancer. What do you think? What do you suggest? I said, well, I suggest you find out everything you can about what you have, period. Find
Yeah.
out everything, find out what's good for it, find out what's bad for it, but do your homework. And that's what I tell people too about pot. I never smoked pot before. What do you think I should do? I said, you should get on your phone, Google marijuana,
Yeah.
and read everything. Before you put anything in your body, you should know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I mean, now that I'm older, I definitely do that. When I was younger, I did not do that. We also didn't have the internet when I was younger, though, so it was trial by error when it came with
but
a
but
lot of it.
you trusted your friends or
Yeah, well, I
whoever
mean, the
turned you
first
on.
time I ever got stoned, it was from my mom's pot, so it was my mom's weed that I stole from her.
Yeah, yeah. So you
Yeah.
had that thing that was safe enough for her. That's the whole point. That's why, like those, those music guys and that killed themselves with fentanyl.
Yeah.
You know, uh, because what happens, it's mind altering, and mind altering is dangerous. Anything that's mind altering,
Mhm.
like hypnosis, can be dangerous.
Mhm.
Any kind of or self hypnosis or anything can be dangerous because our life here in the physical plane is so fragile. You know, it's so fragile that uh, when I see movies about people getting close to a cliff,
Mhm.
I turn it off and look away because
Your
my
anxiety?
well, no, your instincts is to
Mhm.
stay alive. And I think in my past life I've done two things
Mhm.
that I'll never forget. One is I was in a cave and I couldn't get out, and another one is that I think I've when I got uh, killed one time from high. What
Like
you would
falling from
call
somewhere?
falling from something. Yeah. So because I got this fear of heights, not not my wife has. It's called vertigo. She
Oh,
has
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
She has a hard time getting on an escalator. She has to do a lot of rituals, and then get on.
Mhm.
But I understand totally
Yeah.
because it's your instinct to live that rules you. You
Mhm.
see.
Yeah, yeah, that little part in your brain where it's just yeah, like you said, just
Yeah.
instinct. It automatically, even though you may not be consciously thinking about it, your brain is like, "Whoa, you need to take a step back."
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that saved us, a lot. What I found out just with myself, uh, it's funny because I do I've been doing a lot of podcasts,
Mhm.
and because of my reputation, right away, they're, hey, hip smoker reefer kind of guy,
Mhm.
and a lot of people, they mistake getting high with being a rebel and being reckless
Yeah.
and someone there knows that society, that kind of thing. But I was never that guy. If
Yeah.
anything, the guy I am is a musician that learned how to play because people needed him to learn how to play.
Mhm.
But so it wasn't a natural gift that I got like Mozart or somebody, where I was playing in another life. Now I come back to conquer the instrument.
Mhm.
No, I grew up in the country, and you did what you could do
Mhm.
to help. And because I had a little bit of a musical talent, the fiddle player across the field taught me how to play guitar so I could back him up, him
Mhm.
playing fiddles. And so I ended up playing for parties and being like treated as an adult since I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And that sort of gave me a leg up when it came to performing,
Oh, yeah, when
because
you started so young.
when you're that young, it's like it's second nature. In fact, you're more comfortable
Mhm.
because you know the outcome. You know
Mhm.
what you got to do in order to get to get the audience off, as it were.
Mhm.
But but when it came to smoking pot, I treated it, because I hadn't even thought about it. The musician that gave it to me, a jazz musician, I was in a jazz club,
Mhm.
and it was serendipity, because he just appeared. I knew him briefly, but I was one of those guys. I was a backup guitar player, so I wasn't the lead.
Mhm.
And so I was just proud enough to be able to have a guitar in my hand, and people let me in the jazz club free because I
Mhm.
had an instrument, and so then, and I think it was a Chinese connection, because he was a Chinese bass player, Raymond Ma,
Mhm.
and for some reason he just gave me a Lenny Bruce record and a joint, and boy,
The perfect
that
combination.
changed my life. It changed. I think the next day I went and quit school.
Did you? You're like, you found
For
your calling.
Yeah, well, it was for the second time. I
Mhm.
quit school. I quit school as soon as I could. I thought I was grown. I was in Army cadets, and I thought, I don't need school. No, I wanted to get out in the workforce. I wanted to be treated like a man. And
Mhm.
I got out there, and I started as a roofer, because
Okay.
that's a job you can get anywhere at any
Yeah.
time.
Without any degrees or
Nothing, nothing. Get your sad ass on that roof, and what happened? I was I would be working like 3 hours, and then I would see kids going to school. And then I'd have another 3 hours of work to do, and I'd see kids going home from
home from
school.
school.
And so I thought, I think I better go back to school.
Right. Yeah,
But I went
especially
I went back I went back to school, and I never really had any reason to, other than I didn't have to get up early. I didn't have to get on that roof.
Mhm.
But as soon as I smoked pot, I said, man, what I need to learn is not in school, because they kind of baby you in school.
Yeah.
They find out what's the easiest thing for you, and then, here, you better do that.
Yeah.
You know, but where real life, especially in the music world, it's
Mhm.
not like that. You know,
No, you need life experience.
you need to be good at what you do in order to
Mhm.
make a dent, and that's what I did. But it was that trusting the universe.
Mhm.
I never had any. Well, when you grow up poor, you don't really have a lot of time to sit around and think esoteric things.
No, you don't. You really don't. You have to
But
think
I
about
became a
food and
but
stuff.
yeah, I became a writer, and that then I found my calling. I really
Mhm.
found what I could do, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm writing away.
Mhm.
Uh,
Are you gonna be making a new movie? Any new movies or
Girl, I got some plans that they're so crazy. They're so crazy. But you know what I found out? Well, first of all, I found out the power that,
Mhm.
that humans have. It's been written in all the spiritual books. Everybody, every day a book comes out telling you how to get this power, you
Mhm.
know, and and what you have to do. Now, I was lucky enough. See, I got into jazz. I was lucky enough not to be good enough to play,
Mhm.
but I was good enough to sit and learn and listen and think
Mhm.
and think. Because see, when you're playing, you can't think. You're
Mhm.
playing, you know, and that's why a lot of musicians, they don't have a lot to say. you know, you know
That's
what I mean?
yeah.
you know,
I've dated a drummer before, yeah. Bad idea.
yeah. So I had time to think, and when you think, and then so my thoughts would wander. I'm a like a Gemini, and
Hmm.
I've got, and that was one thing. Everybody, reads my fortune or whatever. I'm a dreamer
Dream, yeah.
and I'm a daydreamer. But I combined the two. What I did, and this is what kills me too, because when the image that Cheech and Chong created, that we created,
Hmm.
it's it's so so far away from who I really am,
Hmm.
because it was an act.
Yeah, you're an actor. You were acting,
That's
and
right. But we I gotta say, I hate to say this. I hate, I had an old uh, manager from
mhm.
New York, and it was actually, he was one of the guys that, or probably the guy that broke Cheech and Chong up, you know,
Oh,
and yeah, because what happened with us, we when we did Up in Smoke, we kind of got screwed out of it was
a
the
lot of
typical,
money.
yeah, the typical screwing that new, first timers get.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
because that movie grossed, like, because I remember that was in '78, right? That was the year I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
born, and it grossed over $100 million, and in
Yeah.
1978, that's like $1 trillion.
Yeah. Well, Cheech and Chong were broke,
Mhm.
literally, with a movie grossing like that, because we never had protection, legal protection, and that actually helped, because we had the promoters that did the movie. They were sending guys around with contracts for us to sign, so it would cover their ass.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say I'm not signing them, but I was smart enough to know, I'd say, okay, just leave it with me, and we never signed them, which was our only defense. And
Mhm.
so when we went to court, and that's where I met Howard Brown, the
Okay.
hustler from New York.
Mhm.
I met him at a time when Cheech and I couldn't get a movie, couldn't even get a meeting with anybody, and we were sitting on top of the hottest movie that year, and we couldn't get noticed because we
Mhm.
weren't
Yeah.
represented properly. So Howard Brown, I called him Suits Brown, because his background really was, he's a very brilliant Jewish guy from New York who hated his mother.
Like most Jewish guys from New York.
Yeah, yeah. And he had a sort of a thing. He wasn't when he was younger. He had that twinkle, and
Okay.
he hung out with gangsters.
Oh,
He,
okay.
he was a big, you know, lover of gangsters, because the gangsters seem to have the dangerous women, the hot but dangerous. And 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 so when I met him, and then I introduced him to Cheech. Cheech hated him, still hates him to this
Still
day.
hates.
To this day, we did a documentary, and in the documentary, we're going to Howard's grave, and I thought even by now Cheech would have some, no, but no forgiveness.
No.
Howard, well, Cheech's dad's a cop, and so
Okay.
Cheech was raised, and he was raised very strict Catholic, and
Mhm.
and and he bought into that thing. In fact, I talked to him the other day. Yeah, we're back together, no
Mhm.
problem there. But I talked to him the other day, and he's watching Cops, because it reminds him of his childhood.
Of his childhood.
But anyway, Howard Howard just gave me the New York hustler lesson, you know.
Yeah, that's
And,
a hard lesson. I've learned it.
yeah, and what it was is that people, first of all, what he told me, he says, you got to have someone blowing your horn for you. You can't blow your own horn.
Mhm.
and I've always had that problem. So Howard, in his gangster way, told me, he says, so put me on the map, and I'll put you on the map. I'll make sure you get what you want. And the
Hmm.
first thing Howard said is that you got to be acknowledged for what you do, you know, because what I was doing, I was splitting everything 50-50 with Cheech, including everything that I wrote and everything,
Hmm.
and Cheech was fine with that.
Hmm.
But when it came down to him splitting it with me, it
Hmm.
never happened. It never happened.
It
It never happened. And which is why I just tased myself. I
Oh.
just
Are you
I got
okay?
I got this habit of having to do
Randomly
something with my
tasing
hand.
yourself? Oh, I
No,
do that too. I'm playing
it's a lighter. It's a lighter. Look, it's a lighter,
Uh-huh, but
but
it's
it's
also a
battery
taser?
operated. And
Oh,
it's battery operated, plasma lighter.
got it.
So I put it down. Cheech did the same thing the other day. But anyway, Howard taught me. He gave me a lot of lessons. He gave me that New York hustler lesson, and it's
Mhm,
it's not about cheating people. It's about allowing people to make their own choices. But the choices you give them are like, here, take a card, and you give them the card that you want them to take.
mhm.
You know, just by the sleight of hand.
Yeah.
So Howard, he gave me a lesson in this whole thing, and as a result, I ended up, after Up in Smoke, I ended up directing what, 4 movies,
Mhm.
Cheech and Chong, and I was the director, I was the producer and the owner, everything. And then Cheech got really tired of that, and then Cheech went off and did his own movie. See,
Mhm.
and the problem that we had, was that when we were a team, we were, even to this day, I mean, we were with millions as a team.
Mhm.
Separately, we were with half of that, and for the most part, I did okay.
Mhm.
Cheech did okay in doing, his acting job and everything, but together, we're unstoppable, and that's why we're right now. It was my son that got us back together,
Mhm.
and it was my son that's, like, we're getting ready to go on the New York Stock Exchange with the Cheech and Chong uh, company.
L
We got a
line of
delivery,
weed
a
and
line of weed. We got a delivery service. All sorts of things. We're going to have dispensaries. We're going to have a lot of things, but we each got our own line of product. And
Mhm.
then I got CBD products that are
Yeah, I was looking at that your site of a lot of that stuff. My one of my
Ooh.
friends, because I've tried CBD stuff and it never really worked for me. And she's like, "Oh, because you smoke regularly, you probably just need to take some more CBD." And I was like, "Oh, that actually makes sense. That makes perfect sense." Because I know that like sometimes like you don't want to be super stoned, but you still want the medical benefits, maybe to help you go to sleep or like to help with anxiety and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, or to cure cancer.
Mm-hmm.
little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was I going to ask you? No, no, what is your background?
My background? That's right, he didn't tell you. Well, I'm a stand-up comedian. I've been a stand-up comic for about 7 years, but I'm a retired porn star. I was in adult films for about 4 years. And then before that, I actually went to school to be a cop. I have a degree in criminal justice. And I used to like drive an armored car. I did like private security and stuff like that. I had my PI license for a while. So I've kind of had all of the jobs. Like I used to work in bars. I was a dancer for a really long time, porn, and now comedy. I also have a degree in psychology. So I'm one of those people that if I find something interesting, like I'll go to school for it or I'll try it. And then once I get my fill or like, I'm done with it, I find something else. Comedy is the thing that stuck the most. 7 years is the longest I've ever done anything. So I think we
Well,
may have a winner.
well, no, that's going to be your life.
Hmm.
And you know why?
Why?
We're truth seekers.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we are. And the scripture says the truth will set you free.
Mm-hmm. You
See,
find your
the truth.
truth.
Well, it's not your truth. It's
Oh,
the international truth. It's
mm-hmm.
the world truth. You
Mm-hmm.
see, that's what comedians are. That's
Mm-hmm.
why that's why the Joker in the King's Court, you know,
Mm-hmm.
was very important because the king could always go to him for the truth. You know, the jester, the court jester.
Yeah, the court gesture.
See, that
Mm-hmm.
was a very important thing for the king to have because he always knew where he stood
Mm-hmm.
with everybody. You know, because everybody else would lie out of self-preservation, but the court jester could tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So I found out we're truth seekers, and I found out, especially with this pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because the truth is, if you are a truth seeker,
Mm-hmm.
you will find truth in everything. And when you find the truth in everything, in other words, you don't fall for what's phony right away, because if you're looking for truth, you analyze everything, just like you do with pot. You take a
Yeah.
toke and hold it in, you analyze and you say, oh yeah, this got THC, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's got something. So, or if you smoke a hemp cigarette, you say,
Mm-hmm.
well, I feel nice, but there's no kick to it. Now, you said you smoked. Are you a cigarette smoker?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, well, listen, I got good news for you.
Okay.
I got really good news for you. Right here, right here
Okay.
is a healthy cigarette. It's a
Ooh.
it's a, it's a hemp cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it has. I can't even open this. It's another thing. You need my son to help me open the cigarette fucking package here. Oh, here we go. See, these cigarettes
Mm-hmm.
are healthy.
Oh, they have
No,
like the herbal kind of cigarettes. I've had a couple of those
no,
before.
no, it's
No?
not herbal. It's pure hemp.
Okay.
It's pure hemp. It tastes a little bit like pot because it has trace amounts of THC in it.
Mm-hmm.
But the most important thing, as opposed to the tobacco cigarettes, which are filled with additives, the worst things that you can put in your body,
Yeah.
the stuff that causes cancer, and that is all the additives. Because
Mm-hmm.
back in the day when the natives were smoking, they smoked herbs. They
Yeah, they
smoked
didn't have all those chemicals in there.
no, and the chemicals are there just to, number one,
I think, well,
make
they
you
also make
addicted.
them more addictive. Yeah, I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
addicted to the chemicals in
yeah,
them
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
That's what it
I'm like,
is.
I need more arsenic.
Yeah, yeah. And right now, well, you've had the cancer, so
Hmm.
especially when you have that. So you want to do the hemp
The
cigarettes.
hemp cigarettes. Okay.
Yeah, they're gonna be available everywhere. This one's OG,
Nice.
the OG Kingpin. It's called, and what it has, it's like smoking a joint, except you're not going to get the THC high.
Yeah.
You can puff on it all day,
Well, it's the
but
habit. Like my brain is like wired to, smoke. It's
yeah,
not even necessarily the nicotine. It's just the habit that I formed
yes,
around smoking.
that's right.
That's the hardest part to break because I can not smoke and then like I'll see a cigarette because I've quit a bunch and I'll see like a cigarette on TV or like my friends smoke a cigarette. I'm like, I could just have one and then it's
No,
all
but
bad.
the way to quit habits is not
Hmm.
to stop; it's to change habits.
Yeah.
That's all. In other words, if this is on health, that's why I'm talking about my hemp cigarettes. I'm
Hmm.
really happy. I'm thrilled about them because now you don't have to change. Well, I used to smoke because being a musician and
Yeah.
growing up, playing music since I was 8 years old. And
When
my
did you
dad.
first start smoking cigarettes? How old were you when you
Well,
were
well,
smoking cigarettes?
well, my dad was a heavy smoker,
Mhm.
social smoker. He had a whole style, and it was fascinating watching because the way he would
Oh, yeah,
smoke.
certain people looked really cool and, like,
Oh,
classy when they
and
smoked.
and
Oh.
every actor in the world back in the day had to know how to look cool
How to
smoking a
hold
cigarette,
it.
hold
Yes.
it in the side of his mouth, or
Yes.
light two cigarettes at the same time and give the girl one.
Yeah.
You know, all those great
Mhm.
things. Uh, but so what you're dealing with is a habit, and what I found out through my studies in that back in the day, well, that's what the natives, the
Mhm.
Indians, First Nations, whatever you want to call them,
Mhm.
their pipe is their altar.
Mhm.
That's their church. And the sweat lodge is where they would go to practice their religion, because and it's a recognized religion because in every federal prison in America you got a
Mhm.
sweat lodge, and part of the sweat lodge is the holy pipe,
Mhm.
and they would fill the pipe with herbs, but tobacco was the main one.
Mhm.
And and do you know why they called it the peace pipe?
Why?
Because when tribes, now think back in the day,
Mhm.
everybody had a knife,
Yeah,
a
knife
big
or a bow and arrow or
big knife, a spear, a
Mhm.
club, because it was dangerous back then. Now you could use a club to kill your food or an enemy. And
Mhm.
so when the tribes get together to talk about territory or whatever, they would break out the peace pipe.
Peace pipe to
And what they would do, they would smoke the pipe and it
Mhm.
would knock them on their ass. Whatever they were smoking, they could not function. It's like probably good THC, but
Mhm.
anyway, they would fall back on their. They could not be violent if they wanted to, and
Mhm.
that's why everybody got to smoke the pipe before they would talk. Now, once the pipe was smoked, now you could talk
Mhm.
because they're not worried about some guy getting pissed off, and stabbing them. And so the smoking of the herb is much more important than people think. Like say to get rid of cigarettes. That's how I stopped smoking cigarettes. By the way, I
Yeah.
started smoking a joint, and every time I felt like a cigarette, I'd light a joint,
Mhm.
and then eventually, I couldn't smoke the whole joint like you can a cigarette.
Mhm.
I would, in fact, I never smoked a whole cigarette either because I was a musician. I put it at the
Oh,
end of
yeah,
my
you barely
guitar.
have time.
But anyway, the whole purpose of the smoking, uh, the peace pipe, and that there was a reason for it, and the reason that it was mostly women that smoked back in the day.
Mhm.
The men never had
Women actually did
time.
smoke a lot.
Yeah, they did, and what it did, it helped them calm themselves, so they could do menial labor over the stuff weaving a
Yeah,
basket.
and deal
Well,
with
like
barbaric men.
and like well, they never much had to deal with the men too much because the men were gone
Most of
all
the
the
time,
time.
yeah.
All Not most of the time. Yeah, can
All
you
the time.
imagine?
Yeah.
They would come home, to get warm, change clothes, sleep. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah. Like my ex-boyfriend.
Eat, 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 and then they're gone again because that was tough living back there.
Yeah.
But the cigarettes, and the reason the women smoked, it was very soothing. It was a very social thing to do, like cigarette breaks.
Mhm.
And like I remember in the movies, guy was going to get executed, but hey, he had to have his last cigarette.
His last cigarette with his last meal.
It's okay. I'm back. I got
Hi.
more people phoning.
I'm surprised it's not constantly going off. Um, so have you ever dabbled with anything else? Like, have you ever tried ecstasy or anything like that?
Yeah, I've done
Yeah.
ecstasy and I've done quaaludes. Love
Yeah. What are
quaaludes.
quaaludes like? Because they don't have those anymore.
Oh, it's similar to ecstasy.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, and they called them spreaders. That's what the quaaludes were. And what they were was a muscle relaxer. It
Okay.
would relax your muscles, including your the part that makes good decisions. And it was a love drug. It
Yeah.
was a love drug. You couldn't help but just want to stay in bed, just have a good time. Yeah, Quaaludes. I used to get my Quaaludes from a dentist, my dentist actually, and the deal was that I would buy a bunch and have to split it with him. But he would give me the script, he'd give me the
Yeah. Oh, so
script.
he would give you the script and then you go pick him up and then you go give him some. That's
Give
well, I
him
mean, that's a smart doctor. That way he doesn't lose his license.
no, no, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's still around. Yeah, I got to tell you a story about.
Okay.
I laugh every time I think about it. The biggest junkies in the
Mhm.
world were always doctors and nurses, because they have the
They have
access.
access to the best drugs.
So back in the, I guess, early '80s, this new thing came out. It's called implants for your teeth,
Okay.
and it was brand new. And I had a jaw here that needed some teeth, and so when I heard about it, boom. I, and the only people who were doing it at UCLA.
Okay.
So I went over to UCLA and I said, I'm going to do the, with my Quaalude dentist. He sent me over there, and 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 so they put an implant in right away, but they did not read the directions, or they didn't know what they were doing,
Oh
basically.
no.
So they put the implant in, then they put the post on, then they attached the implant. Uh, did I have the tooth in there over the tooth?
Don't they like shave the tooth down and then
They did all at once, implant, and then the crown or the tooth,
Mhm.
and then they connected the implant to the rest of my teeth
Oh,
for some reason.
ouch.
Unnecessary.
Yeah.
It got infected because it wasn't allowed to grow
Yeah,
naturally.
because doesn't that look like a
It
process?
was like I had a piece of metal stuck in my jaw,
Oh.
and so I had to go back to the dentist, because it got infected and my jaw swelled up. And so I called them and they said, well, come on in tomorrow, which was Saturday. So I go up to there and there's no one around, there's no secretary, no nurse, no nothing.
Mhm.
And so I just kept walking through doors until I walked in the doctor's office. And one of the doctors is bent over a desk with his pants down. Another doctor's behind him with a syringe, a needle, and he was giving him a shot of something. And when I caught him. When I walked in, they give me that caught in the headlights that look. Oh, okay. And listen, Tom, you sit out there. We'll be right up.
What was he
That's
giving them?
that's why my teeth was so fucked up.
Because they were
Because I had these yo-yos doing it.
that's
Anyway,
insane.
they took it all out, and so I don't have any teeth here, but I got a whole mouthful of implants done properly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they learned over time how to do it for sure. That's insane though. Do you know what they were was it speed? Do you think that they were given the shot? Like what do you think the shot was?
Probably some kind of opioid,
Oh, an opioid, do you think?
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I think. I mean, maybe it could have been speed. It could have been that. It could have been any.
Yeah.
The
They had
doctors.
access to a lot of stuff.
You
Uh,
know about John Hopkins, right?
The
The
hospital, the
the brain surgeon that they named the hospital after.
okay, well I know the hospital, but no, I don't know about John
Okay,
Hopkins.
you got a great book to read.
Okay.
Check it out.
Okay.
Anyway, John Hopkins was a heroin addict. He did
Oh.
all his operations while he was under medical supervised heroin. And the reason he was a heroin addict
Mhm.
was that he was experimenting with cocaine as a painkiller,
Okay.
and he got hooked on cocaine. And the only reason he could get off cocaine was to
For
get
sure.
on heroin.
That sounds like my dad.
And yeah, and that's his legacy.
Hmm.
Everything he did, all the brain surgery he did, he was like John Coltrane,
Yeah,
the
just
jazz guy. He
mhm.
was he was so focused on what he was doing that they named the hospital after him.
After him that he was that good at it. A lot of people I've noticed, like, they'll try to get off of one drug by using another drug because that's just an addict's brain. Like, you can't ever get rid of an addict's brain. It's like you have to be addicted to something. Your brain wants to constantly, no matter what it is. It could be healthy, you could work out a lot, or you could smoke crack. It just depends on, your life choices, kind
Hey,
of.
listen, I've known bodybuilders to have a bottle of whiskey in the gym
Hmm.
while they're working out, and they take
Yeah.
a shot of whiskey and go push heavy weights. No, my dad was a bit of an addict, a drunk.
Hmm.
He could control it. He was very tough. He was a very tough Chinese guy,
Like the functioning alcoholics.
and
I've met, yeah.
totally. It wasn't until he he came home. He woke up. My mother woke up, looked at him, and he's covered in blood. He was like got beat up, and he's in bed. And so my mother woke him up. What the hell happened to you? And my dad said, I don't know. And so they went out, and he had driven the car. Apparently, what he did, he drove the car into a telephone pole,
Oh,
and
no.
the telephone pole broke off and smashed into the car. Somehow, because he was a truck driver, he drove that car home, and and that's when he quit drinking. And
Oh, yeah.
before that, he lost his job because he was a truck driver, and he pulled into a sleeping thing. He had a little nap, and then he went back to where he came instead of going onward to the
Oh,
thing.
no.
He went back home.
Without dropping off the load. My dad and my uncle were truck drivers, long distance haulers, so I know
And
that.
yeah, we got a lot in common, don't we?
Mhm, yep.
Yeah, yeah. Did your mom and did your dad and uncle, did they ever say goodbye when they left?
Oh, yeah, all the time. They would say goodbye, because he would be back. It'd be like a Monday through Friday, he'd be gone, and then he'd be home on the weekend sometimes.
My
Sometimes he would have to
my
say
my,
Saturday.
my dad never said goodbye.
Oh, he never said goodbye?
He'd just leave.
Because he's like he was coming back, so it wasn't like a
Eh,
real goodbye kinda thing?
He was Chinese. I don't think. And then I found out my mother was 20 some odd percent native, because
Mhm.
I found out my grandmother is 50%. But they had a strange, very, my dad was very quiet. I think it was a traditional thing,
Like a
where
cultural
yeah,
kinda.
yeah, where they just don't talk.
Mhm,
My dad very very until then when I started making a name for myself,
mhm,
and then everything changed. Up until then, he would he would always ask my brother to go on a road trip with him. Hey,
mhm.
come on, hey son, you want to come on? Get right. My brother said, oh no, I got to do this, and I would always go, I'll go. And
They
so
were fun, they were fun to go
I
on.
yeah, I loved them. I loved
Mhm,
it driving. I still do.
mhm.
It was one of my things.
It is a lot of fun. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I don't wanna take up too much more of your time. Where give us the website where people can look for, is it cheechandchong.com?
There's all kinds of it. There's Tommy Chong. .com, cheechandchong.com. Our delivery service is Ding Dong. It's Cheech and Chong.
I love it.
And yeah, we're doing all the yeah, we got all the websites, and I don't handle any of them.
Mhm,
I get my son, who's my manager in
mhm.
Paris. He's always bitching at me for going on Twitter, because I don't know. I respond to to idiots, sometimes.
I do too sometimes. I mean, it's hard not to, where you're just like, are you a real person or a bot? Or yeah, I've learned to I don't go on my phone before I meditate in the morning. I make sure like I wake up, I meditate, I walk my dog, and then I'll go on social media. Because if I do that, like when I first wake up, if I look at my phone, I'm like, oh, I'm fighting somebody today for no
Yeah,
reason.
yeah. Well, I came across, because I do cameos too,
Hmm.
and a lot of them they ask for advice, growing old and drugs and
Hmm.
everything, and so I have to I have to listen to my own advice.
Right. That is my biggest lesson is to learning to listen to my own advice that I give other people for sure.
Yeah, and then following it, you know,
Yeah.
because I was given this one advice about, because I've got spiritual books all over the place,
Hmm.
that I go to, and what I'll do, I'll thumb through them and then stop randomly and then see what the lesson is, and this one is about anger, and uh, and it's very sweet. It was a biblical quote about being able to control your anger,
Hmm.
and then I started controlling my anger, and wow, my life changed, because
Right.
you get angry at the stupidest things,
Hmm.
because it's a, well, like my dog barking at the
Hmm.
gardener.
Hmm.
It's the same thing. It's a reaction. Oh, there's someone else.
Yeah.
Same guy is out there again. And he starts
Yeah.
barking. We're smarter than dogs, And then the
Hmm.
other thing is be able to control your thoughts.
Yeah. Just controlling your emotions, I've noticed, has
Well, that's thoughts.
definitely, yeah, and reactions to things. It's how you
Yeah,
react to things that, yeah,
but
it's
but
a
you have
process.
but you have to really. This is what I did. What I do now is I really have to go to that spot. And then the last one
Hmm.
is judge not. I love that one. And the reason I love that one
Hmm.
is because that's how fights start, because you make a judgment.
Hmm.
Now, if you don't judge anything, good, bad, otherwise, and you just see it for what it is,
Hmm.
then you've accomplished, first of all, you maintain your cool,
Hmm.
which is never bad.
No.
Always good. Always good to maintain your cool, no matter what.
Hmm.
And then uh, you don't hurt feelings, because anger, you can hurt people's feelings. Uh, any of those things where you worry about yourself,
Hmm.
like it's but taking your own advice, it's happening. But the truth,
Hmm.
that's my biggest thing, because I got asked, how'd you get through this pandemic? I said, well, I'm a comedian, and when you're in the pandemic, you're alone. And so think about it. I'm alone with the comedian, and the comedian is going to find humor in everything,
Hmm.
because that's our job. That is our job. And so I am so inept at so many things that I laugh. Like my wife's coming home. We both got Tesla cars, and
Hmm.
I said, she's always going. And so on the phone, I said, how's your battery? She's, oh, I'm really low. I'm really low, because
Yeah.
typical lady, she'll run out of juice, and then why didn't you tell me? Blame it on me somehow. And so I said, okay, well, you better. I'll pull my car out. You can pull your car in, and you can charge your car up.
Hmm.
And so she said, okay. And then and then she come home and she phones me and she says, I thought you were going to pull your car up. And I started laughing, because the minute she hung up the phone, I forgot the
All of
conversation. And I didn't have any excuse. I just had to. I laughed. I laughed, and I got her laughing. She started laughing. I said, I'm sorry, but I do that all the time. You know,
Mhm.
I'll walk into a room looking for something, then I'll walk back, and then I'll come back to my office and I'll remember what I went to get, and I'll go back to get it. I'll forget it
Oh,
again.
all of the time. I do that. It's like called the new door. It's called a new door thing. It's like once you enter a new door, all of a sudden your brain is like completely it can be frustrating sometimes when you do that.
Oh, I used to use that as a bit. I used to say,
Yeah.
actually, you know, they said pot was a gateway drug, and I
Mhm.
said, no, it's more of a doorway drug because the minute you go through the doorway, you can't remember shit. And then then I used to say that's why I kept a bong in every room of my house. So at least when I go there, oh, I know what I got to do.
And do
Then
it, take a hit.
I'd fire up. Okay, listen, I got to run.
Yes.
Are we all done?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Follow obviously Tommy Chong on Twitter and Instagram and check out his new line and stuff like that. Thank you so much for coming on. It will be out in like 2 weeks. And I'll
Okay,
take and I'll take you and send John the info and stuff.
and I think we have to do it again because you never really got a chance to ask
I
me
know,
anything.
it's okay. Yeah, I would love to have you on again. Absolutely.
Anytime,
Uh,
anytime. You got an opening, put me in there.
all right, cool.
And this time I'll let you talk.
Okay. Totally okay. All right,
I I I
enjoy.
I, I really want to hear about your life. It sounds so interesting.
Oh yeah, I've had that happen where people have taken over, be like, wait, you used to do this, and it's fine. I'm used to it.
I know. You're yeah, you got a little more experience than I have. There's a few things I haven't done yet. Okay,
uh,
darling, we'll see you again next time.
all right, thank you so much. Bye.